Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my review for Pearl. This one came out in 2022. It is starring Mia Goth, Tandy Wright, and David Corenswet and was directed by Ty West. So, for those of you who did see my review for X, you know that I absolutely fucking adore that movie. I think it is one of the best modern slashers we have gotten in a very, very long time. And, you know, I heard the news. I did not see X in theaters, unfortunately, so I did not get the teaser for this one. But I was hearing things pretty quickly after my initial viewing of X that, yeah, we're getting a sequel, like, super quick. Like, super, super quick. Story goes, Ty West got a little, while he was shooting X, got a little permission from the money people to go ahead and shoot a sequel. There's varying wrinkles to that story. I don't know the details of it, but all I know is he shot this while he was shooting X. That's all I know. So I was curious to see what that would be like. I didn't think it would be bad. I have a lot of faith in Ty West as a filmmaker, but I was curious nonetheless of how this movie would translate being shot at the exact same time as its previous film. It's very rare to get any sequel from any genre. It's very rare to get a sequel released in the same exact year. And so nonetheless, long story short, I was very curious to see what this would be like. I sprinted to the theaters to see this on my first viewing. And son of a bitch, man. He did it again. This movie fucking rules, dude. I think Pearl's incredible. There's really not a whole lot bad I can say about it, if anything at all. I was just thoroughly impressed with this movie. I think one of the big standout things for me was the fact that it maintains such good continuity, and I think a big reason for that would have to be the fact that they were shooting at the exact same time as X, so it's like you don't really have to worry about, you know, getting all the sets you had previously or making the sets look right. Like, it's all just fucking there. It's all there. Really, really was impressed with that whole deal. And another thing I love about this movie is the fact that even though it is a sequel to X, and or a prequel technically, you can absolutely tell it's set in that exact same universe, this movie stands out so much compared to X. Like, oh man, it's... for anyone who doesn't know, which I'm assuming is most of you, I am a fucking massive Wizard of Oz fan. I fucking adore The Wizard of Oz. I think it's one of the best fucking films ever made, period. I love it. So, you know, seeing just this it's set in the same time period, and just seeing these very clear homages visually to The Wizard of Oz popped me huge. And you get the splash of that with this amazing bloody red splash of horror. It's like, well, how the fuck am I not going to love this? Definitely enjoyed the fact that they really, really went out of their way to make this one stand out. But as far as, you know, I mean, this movie is overwhelmingly positive. There's really nothing negative I can say, to be totally honest. If you really wanted to go in and pick shit, I'm sure you could. But I fucking love this one. But as I was saying, the big star of the show for me is Pearl, is Mia Goth. God, dude. Like, what do you even... you know, people say it all the time to the point where it's starting to get kind of redundant, and it's like everyone knows. But it's like, these actresses who star in these horror movies and give these type of performances are constantly snubbed at the Oscars. And, you know, people have varying, you know, opinions of the Oscars. Does it matter? Does it not matter? The Academy Awards or whatever you want to call it. You know, everybody has contrasting opinions. To me, I don't think it matters all that much. I think it's a good feather in your cap for a filmmaker, but I mean, my favorite genre is horror, so the Academy has never really paid too much favor to me. So. or you know, us as a fan base. But yeah, man, I still think people like Mia Goth and Toni Collette, and I could go on for fucking days. It's like these people need more acknowledgement because, my God, we'll talk about Mia Goth here, but there are countless examples. She's fucking great. She was phenomenal in X. She's phenomenal in this. And the title Pearl is very fitting because this movie is 110% about Pearl. 100%. And this story, honestly, man, is a story of... It's a fucking sad, sad story, man. I mean, you get a lot of entertaining parts of this movie that kind of distract you from the fact, but... God, man, this is a tragedy. This is an absolute pure fucking tragedy. We have the story of this farm girl who loathes her life. You know, her and her family came over to the United States, and this is set in 1918, but they came over from the United States from, I want to say it's either Germany or Poland. I was trying to detect the language that her mother speaks in the movie. I'm positive it's either German or Polish. Let me know in the comments down below. Couldn't really tell you. But yeah, they immigrated from another country, and they're not well off. They're very poor. They live on this farm. I mean, they live in a nice home and everything, but you can tell that they're struggling. This is during the pandemic, not the pandemic we just went through, but the other one, the Spanish flu. So their dad is extremely sick, and she has to take care of him, and her mother is extremely, extremely cynical and has just been battered by the world around her, and just is a very cynical person. She is not a dreamer. She is very much so a pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality person. Who just does not believe in dreams and does not believe in any of that shit because she's just been through too much shit. Which, you know, given her age and just the things I'm sure she's seen, it's not too difficult to understand why she would be like that, but it still is tragic nonetheless. Especially for Pearl, because Pearl is the exact opposite of her mother. She is a big dreamer. She has very lofty goals for herself. She's just a dreamer, man. She is an absolute dreamer. And on the surface, you know, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have dreams. It's a good thing to have goals. But I feel like where this character is tragic is the reason she is aspiring towards these things and setting these goals is not for the purpose of like, oh, it's my dream to be a dancer. She wants to get the fuck out of her life. She is fucking miserable, and it's starting to drive her a little insane. It's starting to drive her crazy, you know, and there's very subtle, it's not all subtle. She fucking just straight up, you know, she does this nice little dance number for all the barn animals. And then Mr. Goose comes in, and I guess Mr. Goose was not supposed to be there because she just straight up mutilates this fucking duck with a with a pitchfork. That was absolutely brutal shit. You know, it was just this poor fucking goose just minding his business. He just came in to see the show. It's like, nope, fuck you. But there are other like little subtle things, like she has to bathe her father because her father's wheelchair bound. He has the Spanish flu fucking bad. And so he's just bound to this wheelchair. He can't speak. He is 2 steps away from being in just a complete vegetative state. Like he is fucked. And she has to bathe him. And you can see, you know, I think she hops in the tub after she gets done bathing him. And then, because, you know, he just gets the sponge bath or whatever. And she starts, like, fucking pinching the shit out of his hand, and he's like, you know, he can't really move or emote or anything like that, but you can even kind of tell because he slightly can, and he's just kind of like, and you're like, holy fuck, and she just keeps fucking wrenching on it. And you're like, Jesus, girl, what the fuck is wrong with you? There's other shit. By the way, she feeds Mr. Goose to the alligator or crocodile. I can't remember which it is. Who really gives a shit? But anyways, this Aladile has babies, so that would explain why there are further crocodiles that she trains later on, bunch of years later in X. But yeah, man, it's such a tragic backstory for this character Pearl, and you know and it will obviously continue, but you see her life in this movie and what becomes of her and how this movie plays out, and it almost makes you feel sorry for her in X. Almost, because she is a fucking terrible person in X. She's like fucking kidnapping people and R-wording people and just, yeah, straight up fucking killing people, and yeah, not good. Not good at all. But, you know, to a lot of villains, there is a tragic backstory, and Pearl is no different. And speaking of Pearl in the movie X, I just kind of mentioned it for a second, but another thing about that character is her sexual nature, and the fact that, you know, she's this very old woman who's clearly very sexually repressed. So then she resorts to kidnapping people, and yeah, we just went all over that. But we get a lot of that backstory, that aspect of her character in Pearl as well, and the fact that, you know, even as a young woman, it seems as though she is extremely sexually repressed. Obviously, having such a strict mother, her husband is out in the war, Howard, who we also get in X, and even the time period in general, you know, it's just women were not, you know, no one was super overtly sexual, so she just has all these deep, dark sexual desires that she can't really fulfill because there's just no chance to. And, you know, we see that translated to things like her masturbating with the Scarecrow, which I think is, as disturbing as that scene is, it's also a phenomenal scene. You know, she starts making out with the Scarecrow and shit, and then she reels back, and then it's the projectionist's face, which we'll get to him in a second. She, like, fucking throws him down. She's like, I'm married! Crazy shit, and then she ends up mounting the Scarecrow and, you know, does her thing and gets her rocks off, and that's about it. That's all she wrote as far as the Scarecrow is concerned, but she does take the top hat, which I found kind of funny. Again, it's another homage to the Wicked Witch of the West, at least that's how I viewed it. Very similar posture and her riding the bike, and I don't know, maybe I'm reaching there because I'm such a Oz fan, but hey, it is what it is. Another thing I found interesting as far as the sexual nature of the character is when she befriends the projectionist. You know, she goes and sees a movie, and the projectionist then comes out after the movie's over, and they talk for a little bit, yada, yada, yada. She ends up coming back, and he shows her a film that he got while in France, I believe it was, and it is one of the first pornography films, and she's watching this, and, you know, she's leaning out to watch the movie in the theater, and because she's in the projection room, and he's talking to her about it, and he starts kind of coming up, 'cause she's bent over, and you're like, oh fuck, is he gonna, and he ends up not doing anything like that. He's a very persistent guy, but not to that degree. But I did think it was an interesting choice, the fact that they chose to frame it like that. I thought that was very, very intentional. So yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that for a second. But, you know, he's just talking to her about it. And again, you know, she's not appalled by this. She's not like, because back in the day, porn of any kind was very, very, very taboo, especially like 1918 time frame. And, but she's digging it, man. Like, she has no qualms about it whatsoever. And I just thought it was very interesting. It's a very interesting scene between those two characters. You know, exploring the sexual nature of Pearl and how that would later affect the character in X. But enough of the birds and the bees, man. We gotta talk about her spiral into madness, which, yes, we absolutely do get in this film. And it's pretty fucking brutal. So early on, she hears from her sister-in-law, Howard's sister, Mitzi or Misty. I'm going to say Mitzi. I think that's her name, Mitzi. So she hears from Mitzi that this local church group is coming through town and is holding auditions for, you know, a dance troupe. And from what it sounds like to me, it sounds like it's just some fly-by-night, you know, just getting some girls to dance around the state, and it's not really going to be a huge deal. But to Pearl, this is her chance. You know, she lives in this little fucking bumfuck town, just nothing going on. No one ever comes here. Nothing. Like, it's just a little itty bitty town. And so this is her chance. Like, this is her chance to get recognized and become a star. Not that she's, again, it's not like she has this big passion for dance or anything. I don't get the sense of that at all. It's more so she can get the fuck out of this life she's living. And she's so scared to just run, so she needs some sort of reason, which is, this dance troupe. So a lot of this is revolving around that and her getting prepared for it. Her mother, completely against it. No way, you're not. I think she says something like, "You're going to abandon me and your father to go dance with silly whores." And it's like, God damn, dude. So it gives you a little sense of that fucking character. But yeah, they get in this huge fucking fight, and basically all the tension, this is like about halfway through the movie, all this tension that has been building up between these two characters comes to a head, and they get in a slapping fight, man. It's so sad to see the father just kind of sitting there, and he can't move, he can't do anything. He's just watching his wife and his daughter just come to fucking blows, man. And they're just, they're fighting, they're fucking arguing. And eventually, I think Pearl either like smacks her or pushes her or something. And Ruth is the mother's name. She ends up stumbling back into the fireplace, and her dress, her long ankle length, dress, can't show those scandalous ankles, man. Ends up getting fucking caught on fire, which then basically burns her alive, and it's pretty fucking brutal. And that's the first life that Pearl takes, at least human life that we know of. Yeah, man, it's fucking brutal, and she gets completely burnt up. She's not dead, but she does end up shoving her in the basement, and, her dad is just kind of left there to be shocked by all this, but Pearl just leaves him there, shoves her burnt to a crisp fucking mom into the basement, and goes right back to the projectionist, and they end up fucking. She goes ahead and cheats on Howard, which is something that clearly she has been wanting to do. I don't even know necessarily if she wants to cheat on Howard, because you can tell that she loves Howard by the way she talks about him, but she's this very, very sexual person, and, projectionist is a good-looking guy, so might as well. But yeah, so they end up fucking, and then the next morning they go back out to her farmhouse. He's like, "At least let me drive you home." And that's the worst decision he could have possibly made, man, because they end up going back to her house. Her mom's still, charred, burnt to a crisp in the basement. Dad's just kind of sitting there, and she actually introduces the projectionist, who I can't remember his name. I think he is just called the projectionist. If he does have a name, it's said in passing. But yeah, she ends up introducing the projectionist to her father. Projectionist is like, "Hi, how you doing?" kind of thing. They go up there, she's trying to fuck him again. And then she talks about going to Europe. When are we going to go to Europe? Like, are you going to take me there? And like, she's, again, just any way for her. That's why, again, I don't think she gives a shit about dancing. It's not about that. Any way for her to get out of the life she is in right now, she is going to take it. She's going to fucking take it immediately, no questions asked. So yeah, man, just this guy she's just met like 2 days ago. She's like, "Yeah, let's go fucking run off to Europe, and I'll just leave my life and leave my husband and all this I'll leave my fucking half-dead mom in the basement. We'll just go." He is immediately kind of like, "Okay, let's," because again, he even says that he's a bohemian. So he just kind of, skips from town to town, and just kind of, he doesn't really stay anywhere. Which would also lead you to believe that he's also a womanizer, so he's constantly just hooking up with women and then just leaving them. So he was planning on doing the same thing with Pearl, but Pearl's not having it, man. She is, and again, we start to see that character break. Another thing I found interesting about this character is anytime someone says, like, "What's wrong with you?" or like, "What's the matter with you?" or anything like that, she gets triggered. Because she knows something's wrong with her. She knows she's fucking crazy, but she doesn't want to admit it. So yeah, man, she fucking takes him to the barn, and he's like, "Look, you're starting to scare me." And then she really starts getting in. She's like, "What did I do wrong?" And she's like screaming at him and shit, and just immediately goes off the fucking deep end. So he's like, "All right, fuck this, I gotta go." He fucking books it. And I know I'm kind of getting plot run downy here, but man, this movie's just fucking rad. But yeah, he ends up hopping in his car, and she's like, "You ain't leaving me, motherfucker!" And she just stabs the shit out of him with a fucking pitchfork. And we'll get into the details later on, but she kills the shit out of this guy. Like immediately, as soon as she realizes, which also makes her a very selfish character too. I feel like in the hands of any other, because I know Mia Goth also had a hand in writing this, and I believe it was her and Ty West. And I feel like in the hands of any other, writer, or not any other, but like a lot of other writers, I feel like this would be a scenario where Mia Goth is played as that tragic, sympathetic villain. No, not at all. Obviously on the surface you can see that this projectionist is kind of a fucking douchebag. He's just gonna fuck her and leave. And, once she's outweighed her usefulness, he's just gonna fucking leave her. It's the same thing for her. It's just different. It's like she's trying to get her rocks off with him. But for her, it's like, okay, you're not gonna take me? You have no use. Fucking kills him. I think it's a great way to portray that character. It keeps her from being too sympathetic. I mean, obviously there's an air of tragedy to this character, but not to the point where you really feel sorry for her, which I really thought the balance there was really good. But yeah, man, she kills him, and then this was probably... It's hard for me to say what my standout scene is in this movie, but God, man, that audition scene and what comes after... that might be it for me, dude. That was absolutely fucking phenomenal. So it's the big day. She gets a nice red dress on. She's just casual about it. Definitely killed one person, and basically has killed her mother, which she does eventually succumb to her wounds and her injuries and does die in the basement. But yeah, man, she goes to this fucking audition. Mitzi was like super fucking nervous, and she's like, you gotta go before me. I can't do it. I can't do this right now. And so Mitzi does end up auditioning, but she wants Pearl to go first. So Pearl's like, fuck it, I'll go. And I love even the dialogue between those two there, where it's like, for Mitzi, this is a very casual, like, fun thing for her to try and do. And Pearl's just like, it has to be me. It has to be me. There's no other option. It needs to be me. Like, she's like, it's this or bust. And she even tells her mom earlier on in the film, she's like, I'll go and do this, and if I don't get picked, I'll fucking come back to the farm and you'll never hear me talk about it ever again. And Pearl meant that shit. So for her, it's like, it's this or bust, man. This is all... Her life depends on this fucking church dance audition. Like, her entire life. So she goes in there, really, really beautifully made sequence here. Great fucking dance by Mia Goth. I thought it was very, very fitting, very old-timey. I love the war propaganda imagery and stuff, and the whole thing, the fireworks, the bombs going off, the back. It was all just really, really good shit. And Pearl's like, you get the sense that Pearl's imagining this, this is what it's going to be like, and the glitz and the glamour, and like it's everything. I also love the little detail of when she steps up to the audition spot, it's the X on the floor. Good stuff. But anyways, so she gets done with her audition. It's about 2 or 2.5 minutes of dancing. I thought it was good. I would have picked her. Imagine if they would have picked her. Like, her whole... I mean, she just killed 2 people still. And probably her dad's going to end up dying since he's just not attended to at all. So, she's responsible for the death of 3 people. But hey, she got picked. So she would ideally not really have to do that anymore. Not the case, though. They pretty quickly just say, very casually, like, yeah, okay, thank you, but you're not what we're looking for. Next, please. I already said that Mia Goth was snubbed at the Oscars, by the Academy, or whatever the fuck you want to say. Allow me to reiterate. Mia Goth was snubbed at the Oscars. Because, good God, man. The sheer panic and anger and grief and just in desperation and all these different emotions that this woman is going through pretty much all at once, you know. She's like, at first she's in shock. She's like it's the stages of grieving almost. She's like, she's in shock. She's like, what do you, no, it needs to be me. It needs to be me. And she just starts getting progressively angrier and angrier. And they fucking, eventually a fucking woman tries to come up and take her off the stage. And she's like, no, somebody fucking help me. Like, this is not how this is supposed to go at all. And she keeps just getting progressively more and more. She, like, tears are fucking coming down her eyes. And that line, you know, first of all, she's like, help me, somebody help me. Like, someone's trying to kill her or something. And just that one, it's one of my favorite lines of the movie. She's like, she's basically on her fucking knees now. She's like, please, I'm a star. Which I just butchered. But, God, it's like, this woman is beyond, heartbroken is not the term for it. It's not even in the realm of what you would classify this as. She's hysterical. And then, you know, it cuts to that scene of a shot of her crying outside of the church, and the way she is crying, it doesn't sound like oh no, I'm so bummed out I didn't get picked for this fucking dance troupe for this church. No, it sounds like she's like her whole life has just collapsed. 'Cause to her, it has. You know, these dreams she had, and, you know, it's all gone. It is all gone. And that's the way she is crying in this. It's not someone who's bummed. It's just pure fucking just sadness, and like, my life as I know it is over. It's fucking over. I have nothing left. Absolutely fucking incredible performance by Mia Goth. I mean, in this whole movie, she's great. We're about to talk about something else that's great as well. But yeah, they end up getting back to the house. You know, Mitzi drives her home, and Pearl, well, Mia Goth gives one of the best monologues in a horror movie I've ever heard. It is 7 unbroken minutes where she just comes clean about everything. Because that's the thing, is like, yeah, sure, she's a maniac and she's fucking crazy and all that, but she never really gives off this sense of being a seasoned killer or a seasoned criminal. She's not, you know, she's not used to this shit. It's just all kind of pouring out of her. And she even says to Mitzi, she's like, I think there's something really wrong with me. Like, I really think there is something truly, truly wrong with me. And absolutely crazy stuff in this monologue, you know. Mitzi basically tells her to pretend that she is Howard. Tells Pearl to pretend that Mitzi is, you know, Howard. And say all the things you want to say to him and say them to me. Bad move, Mitzi. She tells him about how much she fucking resents him for leaving her on this farm to go fight in the war, and, you know, how relieved she was. We find out that Pearl was pregnant at one point with Howard's baby, but she ends up miscarrying, or maybe she had the baby and it died. It's not really, at least in my viewpoint, it wasn't really elaborated on too much. I would wager that she probably miscarried, because the way she described, like, it just felt terrible with that fucking thing growing inside me, or however she puts it. It was just like, oh man, like, she does not want to be a mom at all. That is clear. but yeah, it talks about that. Basically admits to killing people and fucking all this crazy shit. And yeah, I'm not doing the monologue justice, and I won't run it down here. Obviously, I recommend this movie. And if you've already seen the movie, go back and watch that fucking monologue, man. Because my God, it is. I've never been, you know, as someone with ADHD, it's hard to enthrall me with one shot. That's why I don't watch sports. Because for the most part, it's just one panning shot of a field or a court, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm just like, I can't do it. That's my brain. That's literally my brain. Like, I can't fucking do this, dude. So it is very hard for just a single shot of a woman, very pretty woman, by the way, Mia Goth. But anyways, no, in all seriousness, it's very hard for me to just kind of be enthralled by just a single shot and someone just talking. But the way this woman does it, man, it's fucking great. But yeah, she gets done with her spiel, and she then comes back in the somewhat normalcy, if you want to call it that, and she just looks at Mitzi. She's like, you get everything you want. And I thought it was interesting, you know, she's like, because she just assumed, because the guy, you know, holding the auditions, or one of the judges, says we're looking for someone who's blonde. And Mitzi is a very, very pretty blonde girl. So Pearl's just assuming, yeah, you got it. They gave it to you. And I appreciate the fact that they kind of left it up to, you know, they kind of left it up in the air. They're like, did she get the part or didn't she? Because Mitzi's telling her, like, and she seems sincere. She's like, I didn't get the part. Like, they didn't pick me. And Pearl's just insisting. And finally, she just gives in. She goes, you're right. I got it. Because at this point, she now knows that Pearl's a murderer. She just wants to get the fuck out of there. So she's like, yeah, sure, fine. They picked me. Sorry. But yeah, man. So Mitzi ends up basically just not running away, or at least not yet, but ends up very quickly leaving after that. And then Pearl just casually, and again, beautiful one shot, not one take, but beautiful, you know, one shot of Mitzi just slowly getting out of this house, and Pearl just casually walking. Like, she's not slowly, sinisterly walking. She's not quickly sprinting or anything like that. Just very, very subtle movements. Her just walking, you know, just kind of looks at Mitzi, goes up to the fucking stump, picks out the axe, just starts walking towards her. You know, just very, very casual, very blank, deadpan expression on her face. Just like, yep, I'm gonna kill you. Fuck you. You have stolen everything from me. I am going to fucking kill you now. Mitzi starts fucking running away. Pearl eventually catches up to her, and we will get to that when we get to it, but Mitzi is no more. And the sequence of the aftermath of Mitzi's death, I gotta say, is fucking disturbing and fucking haunting. Just these side-by-side shots of things happening. Very blunt imagery. Doesn't shy away from too much at all, which we'll save what I'm talking about for a later part of the video. But yeah, and it's all accompanied by this very haunting lullaby that is, I believe, sung by Tandy Wright, who plays Ruth, the mother. And it all ends and wraps up with Ruth cuddling with the dead, burnt up corpse of her mom, and just kind of, you know, snuggling up to her, just this dead, rotting flesh, burnt, crispy, fucking gross. But she has died. You see that she's tried to crawl up the steps, and she just died somewhere in between that. And yeah, just cuddles up to her, and then she hallucinates just her mom finally saying "I love you" in again, German or Polish. I'm not very sure which, but says "I love you," and this is the first time we hear Pearl speak in that language as well throughout the movie, which I love that little detail too. The fact that she's like totally trying to separate herself from her family and her heritage and just make a life of her own, which is much like what Maxine does in X. So again, you know. Mirroring, filmmaking, good stuff. But yeah, man, the finale of this movie is fucking phenomenal. You know, she sets up, but very Texas Chainsaw Massacre reminiscent. She gets the maggot-infested pig, which I didn't even speak about. There's a pig that is given to Ruth by Mitzi's family, who are very well off, and Howard's family. But she refuses to take it. She just leaves it out on the porch because they don't take charity. And she just leaves it out on the porch, and this thing just, over time, just rots and fucking collects maggots and all this shit. It's fucking disgusting. So that is the centerpiece for this very macabre dinner that Pearl is hosting. Props up her now dead father, who she suffocated. I didn't even mention that either. professional movie reviewer here. You gotta love it. But yeah, sets up her dead father, and his face is all just fucking bloated, and his eyes are popping out and shit. And this is absolutely disgusting. Their burnt, dead mom, she fucking puts in their normal seats too, just like it kind of mirrors the dinner sequence earlier on where they got in that big fight. Puts her mom in the seat, and then Howard comes home from the war. This is set right around the time the war was ending, and so Howard comes home, and he's looking around for Pearl, and then he sees this absolutely fucking horrific scene, and it's just, I can't even imagine what that's like for somebody like him to come back from the war, which in and of itself, some of the things he saw, I mean, he was in a soldier's outfit, so he was over there fighting in this war, and just the horrors that come with that. And then you're finally home, you're finally free from all of that, and you come home to fucking this. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. But he does end up, seeing all this, and then Pearl comes in, and she's like, Howard, I'm so happy you're home. And then the ending credits for this film, that's it. That's the end. And the end credits for a good portion is just a still shot. Not a still shot. It's just a shot of Pearl just smiling. And she starts to slowly fucking you basically get the progression of the character's mental state throughout the movie in like a 5-minute still shot. Or shot. I keep saying still shot. You know what I fucking mean. It's just her standing there while the credits roll. And, she's just slowly, tears are starting to run down her face, but she's still maintaining that smile, and she's just fucking, oh, God, man. It was creepy as fuck, and you bet your ass when I was in the theater, I just sat there through that entire ending credits and was just it was crazy. Absolutely awesome stuff, man. Pearl fucking rules. What a great movie. I know I kind of got old school DOD. I got a little plot rundown there at the end, the latter half of the movie. But, goddamn, man, this movie just fucking rules. I absolutely love this one. I highly, 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 highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, watch X, watch Pearl. And then Maxine's coming out soon. And yeah, man, that'll do it for the review portion of the video. But you know what we gotta do now, baby. We gotta get into the blood, the guts, and the gory bits. We gotta get into my kill of the film. Stick around. Pearl is one of those films that, as far as the graphic violence is concerned, it shows a lot of restraint for a good amount of the movie. And then will all of a sudden hit you with crazy shit. Crazy, bloody, gory film here. Again, not for a lot of the movie. It's not like this is a splatterfest or anything like that. But when it goes there, oh my God, it fucking goes there. We get some subdued deaths, mostly in the case of the father, who I can't remember his name. So I'll just call him the father. But Pearl's dad, who basically, that character in general just has a very... You could debate that he has the slowest death of the movie, since he is essentially slowly dying from the Spanish flu. If anything, Pearl just kind of accelerates the process, and she ends up suffocating him, which isn't very graphic in and of itself, but when you see the aftermath and his eyes are just bloated out of his head and his fucking face it's all rotting and gross and absolutely disgusting shit. Pearl's mom getting barbecued to a crisp was not fun to watch, and just that slow death of that. Very slow deaths for the parents, man. Very brutal stuff. But yeah, man, she ends up getting the worst of it for sure, as far as, slow death, just fucking her skin, I would imagine, peeling and just falling off. If you get burned that bad, dude, and you're left untreated for any amount of time, let alone how long she was alive for, you're not gonna have a good time. And plus, she's down in the dirt floor basement, so her fucking wounds are getting all infected, and oh God. I think she was down there for 3 days alive. Very brutal shit. And then we have the two most gory deaths of the film, which would be, they were close. Because I think both of them have their own cool factor to them. If someone were to pick the one that didn't make it for me as kill of the film, I wouldn't blame you at all, because I think both of the deaths are fucking phenomenal. But we had the pitchfork kill, you know, the projectionist gets it a couple times to the fucking chest because Pearl's pissed off that he's trying to skip town on her. And, yeah, man, he ends up kind of he's trying to drive away with these fucking wounds all in his fucking chest, but he just kind of loses his legs and he just starts rolling down the hill. And Pearl fucking catches up to him, yanks him out of the fucking car, and he's looking up at her, and the build-up is perfect. She just takes that fucking pitchfork and just wham! Right to the fucking face, gets one of the spokes of the pitchfork right through the fucking mouth and just fucking pins him to the ground. And, you know, it's that an amazing wide shot of her just fucking having this thing, and then she even takes her boot and just stomps it in just a little more. It's like, oh my god. And then just fucking leaves the fork right there. Just leaves it sticking out of this dude's fucking head. Crazy shit. Great kill. Fucking brutal. Why do I laugh about this stuff? Because I'm just a sick motherfucker, I guess. What can you say? Anyways, kill of the film for me, though, is going to be Mitzi's death. You know, again, that beautiful one shot of her just fucking kind of walking out, sees Pearl. Again, Pearl casually grabbing that axe and just slowly starts walking towards her. And then Mitzi fucking takes off, and Pearl comes out after her, and Mitzi does end up, horror cliche if you want to call it that, does end up tripping and twisting her ankle, so now she's limping. Pearl's like, that ain't gonna fucking bother me none. Takes a couple good slices to the back with that axe, man. Mitzi fucking falls down. Pearl lands the final blow. I imagine it's to the chest. We don't see that, but what we do see is the aftermath. Again, that very haunting Polish/German lullaby, and Pearl, you know, just chopping Mitzi's body up. You know, chops her fucking arm off, chops her fucking head off, and it's like the dummy work that they used for this was incredible. Like, it's some of the most realistic. It was one of the most realistic beheadings I've ever fucking seen on film. It was fucking, I don't even know how much time and how much effort takes in the build, because it looked just like the fucking, like, to a T, man. It was crazy, and it's like the amount of time you put into that just for someone to take a fucking axe to it. I mean, that's the point. That's what you get paid for, but I'd be on set just like, oh, fuck. But yeah, man, just chops her the fuck up, and we get, you know, again, very blunt imagery of her just casually pulling out Mitzi's fucking severed head and throwing it to the crock, and just crazy shit, man. Just absolutely crazy, brutal, gory shit. And that is going to be my kill of the film for Pearl. Cannot wait for Maxine. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed this review. I enjoyed it. Talking about it and all that shit. I'm sure this is going to be a long one, so if you're still here, thank you, because I know I talk a lot when it's movies like this. But hey, thank you all, as always, for stopping by and supporting the dream. And next time on Days of Darkness, we're going to be talking about Evil Dead from 2013. It is the remake / sequel / whatever the fuck you want to call it. But yeah, man, super fucking excited to talk about that film. You know, we're speaking about blood and gore here. Holy fuck, get ready, because it's going to be a long kill of the film section. But anyways, guys, like I said, thank you as always for stopping by and supporting the dream. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and for the love of all things gory, keep watching horror. Alright, guys, have a good day.